You can see he's up in P5. Somewhere in the fray of all of this is Joshua Kaufman there. You can see emerging from behind as we exit the old hairpin. These two having to basically wade through waist-high traffic here. They are knee-deep in it. Or waist-deep in it, I suppose is the better term, given what I just said beforehand. Car come off as well, that being the 115 car of, I believe, Jake Goldman. Just had some trouble down at turn 7. Stay on board with Driver and Kaufman. Another battle to be this time for control of P5, as Aaron O'Callaghan is the next driver to pick up a drive-through penalty over the course of this race. Zambi driver jumping to the inside of BPW. Kaufman following him through at turn 11. As we head down towards Goddard's corner. So far, so good then for the exclusive team of Stefano Fari, Zambi driver, and Roberto Becca. You can see further up the field there another exclusive car. This time David Hudson in the 789 car is up in 4th position. Exclusive holding on to confident top 5 positions in this race so far. Looking to elevate that, hopefully by the end of the race, to some podiums, even perhaps at a challenge of David Hudson and Zambi driver round out the top 5 with exclusive the 2 Lamborghinis highest up the field for Lamborghini at this time. In fact, the only 2 Lamborghinis in this event at this time. So really, you got to hand it to them there. They took a huge gamble choosing Lamborghini, and it's paid off massively as they found a car that's, in the current meta, quite the hidden gem, so it seems. See, McLaren are still omnipresent in that top 10, with the lowest of the McLarens in the top 10 at the moment being Luke Harrison, who has fought through thick and thin at this time to maintain a top 10 position with AXRL. We saw him go all the way across the grass down in Sector 1 a couple laps ago, and he's held off against that for the time being. There was a major stability scare for the AXRL team at that point in the race. Another set of McLarens up the order there. Luca Heinz with SOG and Joshua Kaufman with K1 make up 6th and 7th position, with Winchester and Kuiper 3rd and 2nd. You see Wesley Kuiper now having to lap the lapped car of Dave Van Asperen. Now we can see quite an interesting spectacle of things at this time, with Kaufman, Driver and Hudson all within close proximity of one another. Now it could be a 3-car battle in the works here for the last of those podium positions here in the 2nd hour. Already nearly halfway into that, so time is really flying at this leg of the race. And the 2 Lamborghinis are going to have to work together here to hold off this K1 car. The McLaren, the number 113, Joshua Kaufman, hunting them down on the run towards turn 12. Looks like even further trouble besets the 207 of Kostas Angelidis, as we see the BMW nearly spinning into the fray ahead of Zambi driver and Joshua Kaufman, who are now incredibly close from one another as we head into turn 7. still watching on board through all this time between Kaufmann and driver, still at the gap they were the lap before. Sorry for the long pause of silence there. We're just handling a few things in the background as well. Between these two drivers, it has been a fantastic show of racing in the top 5. We'll stay on board for the next lap or so with the battle on board the 113 of Joshua Kaufmann against Zambi drivers 787 as we head into lap 57 of this race. So then we come back on board with the battle between Kaufmann and driver as they run into the sort of the dark horse of this race so far, the lapped driver of Aaron O'Callaghan, who puts himself slap bang in the middle of things here, down in 30th position, refuses to yield and ends up getting passed on the inside by Kaufmann, who has now lost a little bit of steam on his run towards Zambi driver. All this has done is allow David Hudson the room to escape further up the field. He's now nearly 3 seconds from these two. Perspective of Zambi driver, who is the other half of this two-car battle we have been watching for so long. Him and Kaufmann back in the standard racing order they were in, around 4/10 of a second there. It's still to change because I doubt this is the last of our pit stops at this point in the race. So let's go on board a battle I'm sure we've been itching to see yet again. Let's go back towards P2 and P3. Zambi driver of the number 787 exclusive Lamborghini versus Joshua Kaufmann in the 113 K1 McLaren. These two have been at it for seemingly a year or so now. It feels like so long that these two have been in close proximity, battling all throughout this leg of the race. For driver, he's had a phenomenal defensive performance. For Kaufmann, he has constantly kept that pressure on and has had a very respectable attacking performance. Admittedly, he's been thwarted from making that full move into P2. Driver has held him off fantastically. We've got trouble down the order there. I think that was down at the Melbourne hairpin. On your left-hand side, you can see a live tracking statistic of all the cars on track here in Donnington Park, with an hour and 26 minutes left to go here at 8:19 AM local time. Zambi driver and Joshua Kaufmann having to get past Jay Robertson here. Down in 24th, the lapped traffic is going to need to move over for these approaching faster cars. Driver's actually being put under quite a lot of pressure here to get past him early. One must also consider that is a K1 car out in front, and they're rolling over to one side to let him get by. Zambi driver and Joshua Kaufmann continue their conquest across the track here, battling almost perfectly for control of P2. A drive-through penalty handed to Alex Haig in the 548 car, down in 27th position. I daren't take my eyes off of this view here. These two drivers have been going at it for so long. The 548 car in trouble there. That was Alex Haig, who I believe has just vanished. The Zambi driver and Joshua Kaufman heading out of the S's. They're still only at around 3/10 of a second from one another, and it has been pretty much that gap for the last, oh God knows how many laps now. You're looking at 15, maybe 20 laps now, where these two have been constantly in arms for control of position. Now at the highest they've been for this race so far, in the control for second. Exclusive and K1 battling things out with Orion Racing out in front. So how's about we go and take a look at the battle between Kaufman and driver yet again. Still sitting at that uber consistent 0.3 bracket. You really have to give it to these two drivers. I definitely say this is among some of the best battles I've ever seen in my time as a commentator, sheerly on the fact that they are incredibly consistent. In fact, I want to see the metrics on what times they've been doing as well over the course of the last 5 to 6 laps of this race for these two, as it seems that these two have just been mirror images of one another over the last stints of this race. So you can see here, here's the times of Joshua Kaufman on his stint so far. 127, 127, 127, 128, 127, 127, 127. Now, we take a look at the times of Zambi driver, who he's been battling with for seemingly forever now. We're just going to take the last 6 or so laps as an example of that. And here you can see, same pattern again, 127, 127, 127, 128, 127, 127, 127. It's a near mirror match, ladies and gents. These two are two in the same, almost unstoppably close to one another. It's like racing a mirror image of yourself. So one has to wonder, in the mind of either Kaufman or driver, how do you beat yourself at a race? Because that might be what they have to look into. They may have to look even introspectively to see what they would have to do to circumvent it, because these two drivers are performing at exactly the same level, which is such a rare thing to behold. You can see there, it was only a 10th between them on the last lap alone. They're still aiming around the high 127 mark. You really have to hand it to these two. I've rarely ever seen two drivers be so close for so long on the same level of performance. And this is also factoring things like the fact that these are two fundamentally different cars. They have different engines. Their weight distribution is different. Their setups are different. Their tyre degradations are different. The rate by which the tyres degrade is different. The rate by which they consume fuel and get lighter is different. They are two completely different drivers, but right now they're identical. You can see now, maybe I spoke too soon because the gap starts to widen. Was nearly at a second there before the Melbourne hairpin. And now expands out to 0.7, 0.8 of a second. But the fact that for so long in this race, as we come down to the hour and 45-minute mark of this race so far, that these two drivers have been able to stay within a second of one another. Now you can see it's around 2/10 in difference on their last time. Now up in the high 127s. They were at 127.6 and 127.7 in the last lap. They're now at 127.8 and 127.9, or 127.7 and 127.9. So many numbers to fly through here. I hope you're excited for statistics, because this is pretty much all you get at this stage in the race, ladies and gents. Numbers upon numbers, like we're in a maths equation. We're not going to watch on board with the McLaren, because I just want to get a look here at, you can see the physical length of that gap that has existed between these two drivers over the course of the last 10 to 20 laps has been no more than 2.5 car lengths. You think, well, that looks pretty long from our perspective right now. You could fit, well, maybe 2 buses, maybe even a bendy bus at the airport between these two cars. Now, look at where it is now. You're not fitting anything between that. You're not even fitting yourself between that. And now you can see they're side by side on the run into the Melbourne hairpin. It becomes 3 wide with Frankenberry in the mix as well. Kaufman looking towards the outside, then the inside, then the outside again, switching back and forth and back and forth. We head to turn 12 and going into the inside. Both of the drivers now stuck in a sandwich of traffic as they exit turn 12 down towards Redgate at turn 1. Ahead of them, Kostas Angulidis. Behind them, Rainer Frankberry. It has been an absolutely sensational show to watch between these two drivers. Drivers on such level ability duke it out here through a waning traffic of cars. You can see off in the background there, that was Tace van Asperen in the number 72 Velocity racing car. So that was a bit of a scare there to watch a car go flying off the track, but it's not diverting us from the action on screen. As you can see, barely anything between them. They were side by side, almost getting them mixed up there with the mix of colours, with another exclusive car in the background being Rainer Frankenberry. But right now, our attention is focused entirely on Joshua Kaufmann versus Zambi driver on the exit of Coppice. There was barely anything between them. They now rejoin at around 0.3 of a second. Down the Starkies we go. And it has been an absolute jaw-dropper of a performance between these two. There's been trouble down the order on the exit of the S's for the 992 car at this leg of the race. With an hour and 15 left to go, it looks like more trouble on the horizon for IGF. But they're still just outside of top 10, with a top 10 in sight by the end of this race. Here's hoping for them after such a explosive start to the race for them. It would be lovely to see teams bounce back from the chaos that was lap 1. For these two at the moment, it is just I'm on the edge of my seat here, waiting to see where things turn out. Will it go in the favour of Exclusive? Will it go in the favour of K1? No one knows at this time, because these two drivers have proven that it is any man's game. You just can't predict when things will change. The 33 AXRL cars run into trouble on the left-hand side of the screen there. You can see on the mini-map the white flag shown for the 33 on the exit of the S's. So with the tyres starting to fail at this stage in the race, we're seeing more and more drivers caught out by the incredibly tight section of turns 9 and 10 at the S's. Still, absolutely nothing between them, and I am astonished. I want to look somewhere else. I want to see if there's other battles, but how could I? Because look at what we're seeing right here, ladies and gents. This is among one of the best battles we've seen all season, just on the nature that these two drivers are so evenly matched. You could say it could go in either direction of either driver at any corner, and you might be right, or you could be wrong. I know that's the nature of most battles, but it's just how unpredictable things are when you have two drivers on exactly the same pace. Every single lap there. You can see there, 127.5, the only thing separating them was 100th of a second. It's absolutely sensational stuff between Zambi driver and Joshua Kaufmann. I hate to sound like a broken record singing their praises here, but they absolutely deserve it for the level of consistency on display. It's absolutely mind-boggling. We'll stay on board with them so that we can read out some of the statistics in regards to the overall race standings, as a drive-through penalty is handed to Joseph D'Ambrosio down in 19th position. The 205 LDRL Porsche running into more trouble at this late stage of the race. Currently still leading is Aidan Winchester. These two still duking it out for P2. Luke Wilson some distance away, looking to hunt them down later on, with Bailey Rosier rounding out the top 5. Luca Heinz is in P6 with Dylan Hart P7. David Hudson is P8 with Kobe McVeigh in P9. Luke Harrison and Jay Williams make up 10th and 11th. Archie Bush is in P12 alongside Ian Skeen. SB is in 14th with Brandon Roos in the top 15. Osmad just outside in 16th with Noah Haggard in the top 20 making 17th position. BPW in the number 992 car is down in 18th position. Never mind, we can see here there's already trouble between these three. Kostas Angelidis has now costed Zambi driver the second place position of this race. Now moving into second is Joshua Kaufmann, so we're going to completely ignore what is going on further down the order, as this has just kicked off into high gear. A lapped car has gotten in the way of the run of the things towards the front row. Now taking the advantage is Joshua Kaufmann.